All right, we're continuing in Pirki Avot, the what do they call it? The chapters of the fathers. Yesterday we got up to here. It says you want to be a pupil of Abraham. You have to be humble. You have to be, how do you say, satisfied with what you have. You have to be, have a good eye for other people and not be jealous and etc. Okay, now we'll learn a really amazing lesson. Yehuda ben Tema said, you should be strong. Oh, they say powerful. What's a better word for us? Defiant, whatever, defiant. Like a tiger, a leopard. Kal Kanesher. Be light, you know, fly like a eagle. Rutz Katzvi. Run swift as a deer. Gibor and powerful like a lion. To do the will of your Father in heaven. What does that mean? Why should you be like a lion? Just say, be powerful and light, right? And fly and run quickly and be powerful. Why do you have to learn from animals from? What's the important letter for this? Let's see. Az Kagibor, you should be, it said, so a nemer, according to what he says, Avadia of Bartanura, he said that a nemer is not exactly what everybody calls it, a leopard. It's some sort of an animal that's born as a crossbreed between a boar, a wild boar, and a lion. Ki be'et yachem aryot halavia mechneset rosha b'sviv hayar v'nohemet v'toevet et hazachar. When the female lion is, how do you call it, in heat, so they go into the forest and they roar, v'chazir shomea kola v'rova, and the boars hear the voice and they have relations with her. The nemer yotzei ben shneim, and what comes out between them? A nemer. Now I don't know how this works out according to science, but in any case, this animal that is the result of this mixed breeding, so because of that, it's az panim. Now there's a saying that says that a mamzer is a Jew that comes from an incestuous or a forbidden relationship. And usually, people that have these incestuous or forbidden relationships, they know that it's forbidden. But nevertheless, the desire for having pleasure overpowers that. So they have to be clever not to get caught. So on one hand, they know what's right and wrong, so they have to be clever. They can't just do whatever they want. But on the other hand, their lust is so great that it drives them to take these risks. So it says children that come out of such incestuous or forbidden relationships usually have a lot of chutzpah. According to some opinions, that's what the Yashkela was, JC, that he was a mamzer. And because of that, he had this tremendous chutzpah that he defied God and he went against the Torah and he became tremendously, defiant, the leader of this whole new anti-Jewish movement. In any case, that's what a number is. So this defiant chutzpahdik thing can be used for good. It's very unusual, it's unique, but it's unique for bad, and it can be used for good, even though that it's not so powerful like a lion, but it's very, bold. It's veloit bias, it's not ashamed of anything. So the same thing, we can use this power of not being ashamed of anyone that we can, if you have a question in Torah, you can ask. You don't understand something, you ask. There's even more. It says other places that what? That you should be azka nemer, not be ashamed. That's what it says in the Shulchan Aruch. Not be ashamed of people that scoff at you for doing good. You want to do something good, and other people say, the religious guy, look at he's wearing tzitzis, he's growing a beard, right? He puts on tefillin, he prays in the morning, everybody laughs at you. You have to be very defiant in order not to that not affect you whatsoever. So you can learn from this bad trait of defying what the world thinks and going against the stream. You can use that for good. You have to be, that's called, how do you say, powerful. So that's why it says learn from a number, because this is an unusual, unique, bad trait that you can transform it to something uniquely good. Also, you have to be kal kanesher, light, like an eagle. What does it mean to run after learning? Like it says, yalu aver kanesherim, to run after a place to learn Torah. Others say what it means, kal kanesher, that you turn your eyes away from seeing bad things. You leave any undesirable or tempting situation. Rutz katzvi, they should run like a deer, to run after the commandments. Run after the commandments. You ever see a deer run? It's actually very graceful and beautiful. Gibur ka'ari, you have to be powerful like a lion. It says lichvosh et yitzracha min arayas, to be strong like a lion, to overpower your impulses and your lusts. You have to be strong like a lion. In other words, to overpower yourself. He used to say, "Az panim legehenom," a person who is, how do you say, chutzpahdik, he's az panim, he's defiant, goes to hell. Uboshes panim, but a person who is, how do you say, shameful, is boshes panim. He's a person that's very, how do you say, quiet, keeps to himself. That type of people go to heaven. That people go to heaven. There's a saying by the Hasidim, exactly the opposite. Oz means to be strong, like we said over here. Oz kanemer, right? Oz kanemer, Oz. Oz pani means like you're defiant, you're courageous. A person who is courageous, pani means on the inside, then he can even go to hell and spread Judaism. He can go to the worst places in the world and spread Judaism. He's not affected by the world, exactly the opposite. He is there to have an effect on the world, to change the world. But Boshes Panim, a person who is weak inside, Legan Eden, he has to stay near the Rebbe, he has to stay in Crown Heights, he has to say, right? He can't take any big risks. He has to be, sit and learn all the time, and that's very nice. But it's not being a soldier. May it be your will, God. Irecha, he has a different version. It says, may it be God's will that will build the holy temple, it says. How we got this version? I never noticed this. Anyway, that's not what it says in the Tan. Let's see. There's this beautiful city. Maybe he says about this. Interesting. 1 minute. I didn't notice this. I went over it. Well, that's not what it says here. It says, Yabana Beit HaMikdash b'mei Rabbeinu. Maybe he says over here. No. 1 minute. Let's look at one more place over here. Sheyabana Beit HaMikdash. That's what we say in the prayers in the morning. It's Sheyabana Beit HaMikdash. All right. He doesn't say that. Interesting. I never noticed that. 1 minute. Maybe he says over here, excuse me. All right. Usually it says Shebana Beit HaMikdash, Yiratzon Shebana Beit HaMikdash, B'mei Rabbi Yamin V'techa Kenu V'torah. Okay, let's go to the next Mishnah. We'll do one more Mishnah, and that will be it. Let me just take a short break over here. 1 minute. I want to look this up over here. Huwa Omer, this is Yehuda ben Tema. He said, Ben Chamesh Shanim Lemikra, a child, when he's 5 years old, that's when he starts learning Mikra. Why can't this? There we go. That's when he learns the Chumash. Ben Eser LaMishnah. When he's 10 years old, that's when you learn Mishnah, even though they actually learned before that. 10 years old. 13 is for mitzvah. From here we learn that a bar mitzvah is 13 years old. This is one of the main places. 15, you start to learn Talmud. We'll learn the Bar Tanur and see what this means. At the age of 18 is the time to get married. When a person is 20, lirdof means to get a job, make money. Ben shloshim, at 30 years old, is for power. We'll understand. Let's see what this means in a moment. Arba'im, 40 years old, for understanding. You start having a little experience in the world. 50 years old is for advice. You can give advice to people. You have more experience. 60 years old is called being, an elder. What happened over here? I didn't want to do that exactly. 1 minute. Oh, maybe you go up here. Here we go. Oh, yeah. 70 years old, that's called being, this is for old age, being an elder. 80 years old is for gevura, for power. What does that mean? How does that mean? I thought he was old. 90 years old is like being bent over. And 100 years old, it's as though you're dead and you're not in the world. And the Rebbe asked, how can I say a thing like that? I mean, what type of advice is that? When you're 100 years old, you should know you're like dead. So what type of advice is that? If I think I can do something and if I think I'm intelligent, you should know you're wrong. You're dead. It's not what it means. We'll see what it means. It means that when you're 100 years old means that you have refined your whole attitude toward the world, and the world has no effect on you. But you're bottled from the world. Let's see what he says. Let's see what Bartuner has to say. Oh, there we go. 5 years old. We learned that from 5 years old, you start to learn Torah. Where do they learn it? From Orla. What's Orla? The first 3 years, it says Shloshanim, 3 years, it's Orla. The fruits of the ground, the fruits of the trees, cannot be eaten for the first 3 years. On the 4th year, it's all the fruits are what's called holy. Hilulim. What does it mean? When a child, when he's 3 years old, he doesn't learn anything, right? It's like he's not usable for the Torah. 4th year, his father starts to teach him what the shape of the letters are and how to pronounce the letters. When he's 5 years old, then he adds on the tavua. From here and on is someone's at my door. Okay. It says from here on, then it's usable to the world. But it's usable to the world. The 5th year, it says you can eat the fruits, and this adds on to your fruits. It says if you keep the first 4 years, then that adds on to the produce. That's 5 years old. 5 years old. 5 years old, then that's when he starts to work in the world, so to speak. So we learn from this that when a child is 3 years old, he doesn't learn anything. 4 years old, his father teaches him. That's like Neta Ravai. You take it to Jerusalem. And the 5th year, then he's already usable in the world. Then he can go and learn the Torah. 10 years old, Mishnah. You learn Mikra. After he's 5 years old, he learns 5 years. He learns all of the Torah and the prophets and the writings. And in the 5th year, then after that, he learns 5 years, he learns Mishnah. And now he's 10 years old, right? And then 5 years, he learns Gemara. 5 years, like the rabbis say, call Talmud, a pupil that doesn't see any blessing for 5 years, he's never going to see any blessing. Like it says, this is the Levim from 5 years, 25 years, and up, they go to the army. This comes to teach you the laws. So he learns the laws of being a Kohen, for a Levi, for 5 years. And then at 30 years old, that's when the Levites start to work. That's when they start to work. Okay, so what do we see? A child, when he's 5 years old, he starts to learn Mikra. Then he learns Mikra till he's 10 years old, right? He learns until he's 10 years old. Then he learns, when he's 5 years old, he learns the Torah. At 5 years, when he's 10 years old, then he's finished learning the Mishnah. And then 5 more years, he learns Gemara. Then he's 15 years old. When he's 13 years old, he does the commandments. Like it says, Ish o Isha yasem mikol chatas adam gabi Shechem. And by Shechem, with Shimon and Levi, that they killed the people of Shechem, it says, Vayikhu ish b'nei Shnei b'nei Yaakov, Shimon and Levi, achi dina ish charbo. So it says, Ish o Isha, then he's liable, it says, for the sin offerings. And it says that Shimon and Levi, they took Ish Charbo. Levi was 13 years old, it says. And he's called an Ish. So from that we learn an Ish is the one that learns Torah when he's 13, does the commandments. When he's 13 years old, then he's relevant to do the commandments, because he learned from Shimon and Levi that he was 13. 18 years old, you get married. Why? 19 times Adam, the word Adam is written in Bereshit, from Vayomer Elohim Naaseh Adam. Until it finds, says, Vayiven Adam et Atzela, when it says that God took the rib and he made, or a side, whatever, and he made a woman. So if so, we have 18 times it says Adam, and one more time it says for itself, Gufe, 19. Pashale that removes Shmona Esrei L'Drasha. So it says 19 times it's written. One of those times is just to tell us the law that a person should get married, that they should get married. So it means there's 18 is telling you for a drasha. At the age of 18, that's when you get married. And 20 years old is the time when he should go to work. After he learns the Torah, and he learns the Mishnah, and he learns the Gemara, and he's 15 years old, right? And he gets married to a woman, 18 years old, and he gives birth to children, right? 18 years old, he gave birth to one child, 2 children. Then he has to go and look for a livelihood. He can't sit and learn Torah all the time. Another explanation, when he's 20 years old, Lirdof oto min shamayim. What does it mean, lirdof? That he is pursued by God to be punished for his deeds. It says that the heavenly court does not punish a person less than 18 years old. In physical, in the earthly court, from 13 years old, a person is liable. He's called a man and he's liable. But in the heavenly court, until a person is 20 years old, he doesn't get punished. Heavenly court. 30 years old for power. That the Levites, they set up the Mishkan and they took it apart. And just like you said before, at 13 years old, that's when they started to work, from 30 years and up, that they have to have strength. 40 years old for understanding. After 40 years, the Jewish people were in the desert. Moses said, God did not give you a heart to understand until this day. Adayom Hazeh. We learned just a week ago. Adayom Hazeh, 40 years. So 40 years, even though a lot of those 40 years it was a baby, he didn't have experience. But nevertheless, at 40 years, those years of being a baby also was experience. 40 years, that's comes to understanding. 50 years is advice. Like it says by the Levites, from 50 years, he goes mitzvah, he returns from working in the temple. The lo yavodot, he doesn't work anymore. But what does he do? He helps his brothers. What does he do? He gives them advice, tells them how to sing. The Levites used to sing, how to carry. 60 years old is for what's called being old. Like it says, Tava Bakelach Eli Kever. It's a sentence in Job. Bakelach, that's the Gematria 60. When he's 60 years old, he's already thinking, he's already, how do you say, facing the grave. He's already halfway through life. 120 years old, the person's supposed to live. 60 years old, he's reached, that's the growing part. And now it's sort of downhill from then on. That's the word kelach. Kelach is the numerical value of 60. Chet and beit is 10. Chaf and lamed is 50, 60. 70 years is for, how do you say, another word for being old, being an elder. Like it says by King David, it says that King David died beseva tova, in a good old age. How old was David when he died? King David, 70. 80 years old, he's powerful. Like it says, in Begavura Shmonim Shanim. If a person is granted a powerful life, then he lives until 80. But the simple meaning is that he's strong. And the Rebbe made a whole, Lubavitcher Rebbe made a whole speech about this, that if a person thinks when he's 80 years old that he's weak, is that he's going against the Torah. If he thinks that he's old, he can't do things, and then it's against the Torah. It says, Ben Shmonim Legavura. And it's also a sentence in Psalms, In Begavura Shmonim Shana. 80 years old. So, and then the Rebbe said that a person's age is not determined by what it says in his passport. His age is determined by what he has in his heart. But then the Rebbe said, but on the other hand, we see that a person that's 80 years old, he hasn't got so much strength as a person that's 20, 30. He said, yes, he doesn't have strength to do things that are unnecessary. Other people can do it for him. But things that are necessary for him to do, right, when a situation, whatever is when he's really needed, as he's got the power. His age should not be a deterring factor. Ben Tishim Shana, and 90 years old, it says, Holech Shachoch, he's bent over. And some people say, Shachoch Amukot, Shocha Amukot, or Amuka. Anyway, his mind is very deep. And the Bartanura doesn't go any further than this, but like the Rebbe said, when you're 100 years old, it means that you've refined all of your 10 sfirot and 10 aspects. And so the world doesn't have a negative effect on you. You have a positive effect on the world. All right, see everyone tomorrow, God willing, at 8:15. We'll finish the Devar Malchut. Have a good day with Mashiach now.